Welcome to Disability 24/7 with Christine Brown.
And Kyle Pigman, we are excited to have you.
This is a podcast by people with disabilities, for people with disabilities, and about disability issues.
Yes, today's episode is all about mental health. Since May is Mental Health Month, there are too many stigmas regarding mental health because some people think that asking for help makes you weak and vulnerable, but it does not make you weak. It makes you stronger. It is right to ask for help when you are not okay. And we want to start there by saying there are resources out there like 988, the suicide and crisis line. You can call or text. And Christine,
Our guest today is Andrea Witwer.
how are you doing today, Andrea?
Hi, I'm doing great. How about you guys? How are you doing?
Good.
Doing good today.
Good.
Can you give us some information about your title and your job at the OSU Nysonger Center?
Sure. I am a psychologist at the Nysonger Center, which is the University Center of Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. And I'm also an associate professor of psychiatry and psychology at Ohio State.
So, Andrea, when did you get started in the field of psychology and the mental health field for children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities?
You know, that's a great question. I got started over 25 years ago. I first got experience in the world of mental health and developmental disabilities when I was a direct support professional when I was in college. And I worked with a young man who had autism and some mental health conditions. And after working with him, I really decided I wanted to go to graduate school so that I could learn more and really understand how mental health plays out and impacts people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I've been doing research in this area ever since. So I spend my time doing research and training students, professionals, and community members on the topic.
Can you clarify your research? That's the thing we need to get at.
Sure, I love to talk about my research, so hopefully I can do it in a short way and not take up the whole podcast describing it. So I'm really interested in how we can meet the mental health needs of adults with intellectual disability. So I've done a lot of research over the last 5 years, asking people with the intellectual disability and other disabilities what helps them with their mental health, what is the things that helps them in therapy, and also asking therapists what they think is helpful, and really looking at the literature to find out what are things that can help people with intellectual disability. And we found that things like cognitive behavior therapy and other types of therapy like mindfulness can be really effective. So our current research project is we are developing alongside our disability expert experience panel folks, a treatment for anxiety for individuals with intellectual disability for adults that will be a group treatment to help give folks some skills and understanding and labeling their anxiety, ways to cope with it, and ways to kind of have them change their thinking to maybe help reduce those anxious thoughts.
I can say something that I co-chaired the Disability Experience Expert Panel, and we've had our group meet with the Research Experience Expert Panel, and that's the REAP. And they come and bring documents to us, and we look at them, trying to make it in clear language, and then we give the document back to the REAP. And so that's how it works, because we have had the grant for 5 years, and we got it another 5 years. So we are continuing our mission to see that everything can be made clear the next step is ever making stuff in the Spanish, which is still not done yet, but someday we'll get there.
One day we'll get there. But yeah, Christine, you bring up a really good point. So when I talked about our treatment that we're developing, we have a workbook and homework and all of these things. And Christine and the other members of our DEEP have looked at everything and helped us think about how to make it as accessible as possible, as clear as possible. And we've been able to kind of try stuff with them and then tell us, no, we don't like this. Yes, we do like this, to make sure that we're developing something that people will actually like and will do. And that's the Disability Experience Expert Panel has just been an awesome help with this current project. And really, I talked about the last project where we were trying to understand perspectives. The DEEP helped us with that, developing the different toolkits and resources that we have till now. The DEEP has been incredibly helpful in helping us make sure we're developing things, one, that are accessible, and two, that are things that they'll actually use and want to use.
So my mental health journey, I have gone through so many different diagnostics until they came out with autism, because the thing is, autism back in the early years, to only be counted autism, you had to be nonverbal. Now it's totally changed. And I went through different kinds like depression, anxiety, and others. And so it just was a big thing. And one day a doctor said, "Hey, do you know your daughter may have autism?" And we never knew because it was just never told to us. Kyle?
Yep, my mental health journey, people notice my patterns. I've never been diagnosed with autism, and I was raised by a negative father, and just at times just didn't understand me. We butt heads at times, and also there's this, there are things that I am sensitive to some sounds, and also, in my mental health journey, my lowest point was in 2016. I came close to killing myself in November 2016. I was very down. I was losing hope, and I thought the hope was gone and hope was lost, but it's not the case. I admit I still deal with anxiety, and but I got more things to live for and now for everything, and it's okay to ask for help, and I was more sad about people killing themselves, like the recent golfer Grayson Murray, and that just set. But now I'm happy to be an advocate people with disabilities, and also am working for Disability Rights Ohio, and my mental health journey is still one. I'm a work in progress, and I take things one day at a time.
So, Andrea, what kind of training is out there to train future therapists and psychologists?
Yeah, there's a lot of different options. And before I even start that, I just want to say first how awesome it is that I think you guys are sharing your stories and doing this podcast, because the biggest thing that we can do to train everyone is to make people aware of mental health and that there is help out there. And like you said, Kyle, it's okay to ask for help. And really, the first step is training professionals to understand that people with disabilities also have depression and anxiety and can have thoughts of wanting to hurt themselves, and that there's ways to help them and important things that can be done to help support people with disabilities. And so we really want to think about how we're training in different ways. We have a training program for graduate students called the LEND program that's at Ohio State and is available at lots of other universities. LEN stands for Leadership Education and Neurodevelopmental Disabilities. And it's really about training clinicians and therapists and others to understand developmental disabilities. And then there's a lot of other, so here at Nisanger Center, we also have a training initiative for folks in Ohio called Building Bridges, where we offer a lot of different types of training materials, webinars, interactive training sessions and materials that can be used by future therapists as well as therapists that are currently practicing right now.
Thank you, Andrea. How can people access resources on mental health that you know about?
Yeah, I think one of the best resources that is out there right now is something called the Link Center. It's a center that is funded by one of the federal agencies, the Administration for Community Living. And they have a website that has resources that are in clear language and are accessible. On the website, they've really looked to find resources that are easily accessible to others. And the easiest way to find it, in all honesty, what I do is I Google Link, L-I-N-K, and ACL, and that should take you right to the Link Center. So that's
Yeah.
one great resource. The other one that's out there is, I talked about our Building Bridges website, our Building Bridges project at the Nisanger Center. And there are a lot of resources that folks can share. It's mostly, the resources are for therapists and DD providers, but people with disabilities can share those resources with their providers. And that's another one, if you just Google Nisanger and Building Bridges, you should be able to find those resources as well.
Nice. Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate, and I know you'll send the links to Disability 24/7 to be put on you on our links on Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube.
Yes, that would be awesome. One of the other things that we could put on that's a cool resource for folks is the mental health passport that we have that adults with developmental disabilities can fill out and take in with their therapist. And your very own Christine Brown helped us with some how-to videos on how to complete that passport. So I'll be sure to send you the direct link for that passport too. That might be something else your listeners would be interested in.
Thank you, Andrea. And now we can go with Christine.
So what do you think are the most important takeaways for Mental Health Awareness Month for our audiences? What is any last minute thing you'd like to say, Andrea, about the importance of mental health that you didn't mention earlier?
I think the importance of mental health is that we should all talk about it. And we should all realize that many people have times where they are struggling with mental health and that it's okay to ask for help. And there are many ways that folks with disabilities and mental health can get help and assistance.
Wow, because I know mental health is still very important in everybody's lives, and it used to be an afterthought. And I admit my late mother was a schizophrenic. I did not know that till a year after my father died. And back first she suffered a stroke in 76, and he told me she was in a nursing home, and then I found out a year after he died she was a schizophrenic and she was sent to a mental hospital. Back then it was all in your head.
Yeah, people just didn't talk about it, right? We didn't know anything about our family history and mental health. It was just something that was kind of, they say, swept under the rug, which is just so unfortunate, isn't it?
Rough.
I think it's important to know that we have a lot of clear language documents that are important, like this My Mental Health Toolkit. And it doesn't need to be just for mental health. It could be for other doctors, because what it does is it is where you sort of have your own pre-profile, who you are, what you like to go by, what's your real name, what do you like to go by, how do you like to be addressed? What's your religion or your race, ethnicity, and also what makes a good day, what doesn't make a good day, and more keys. So the doctor sort of already has a pre-screening of you before you even see the doctor, just to say, because then it's like they already have a picture of who they're meeting before they physically meet the patient.
And I think when we've talked with folks, Christine, they've talked about how it's great. You not have to keep telling the same things over and over again to different professionals. You can just share this sheet with them and this information and be able to help communicate what your preferences are, what you want, what you don't want, like you said, what a good day is, what a bad day is. And I think that helps them, whoever the clinician, the doctor, whoever it is, helps them support you better. Because I think that's the other piece. When people understand the things that are hard for you or the things that you like, they can support not only your like physical health, but your mental health too, right? They're so related to one another.
Thank you, Andrea. And I'm just glad I got to meet you today, Andrea. I appreciate you joining and
But thanks again, Andrea, for taking this time to have us interview you. And we look forward to more. We may come back to you and some other coworkers one day in the future. But thank you again. And I hope your day goes well.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Kyle, it was great to meet you and I loved being on the
Thank you.
podcast. Thanks for talking with me about it. It's such an important topic.
we want to thank Andrea for joining us on the Disability 24/7 podcast on this episode on mental health. Please forget it's okay not to be okay. Reach out for help.
So we hope everyone has a good day. Thank you for watching the Disability 24/7 episode 8 podcast.